Morning. I'm going to go over a philosophical principle that will kind of orient you to the guiding force behind these videos. Not sure what I'm going to do with these videos yet, but I do a lot of talking to myself as I drive in the car, so I thought I'd start recording them just in case I say anything, profound. Pretty much everything I think and feel about the world comes from the idea of individualism. And this is a topic that you might see discussed quite a bit on YouTube, or maybe even in a philosophy class if you're a college student. And almost every time I've ever seen the topic or the concept of individualism discussed, it's discussed incorrectly in almost every case, except for the people that call themselves individualists, interestingly. And I think that it's very important in general to discuss philosophies as accurately as you possibly can, even if they are not your philosophy. But that is something that I find is an epidemic with the world today, is that we don't seem to be interested in discussing each other's philosophies accurately. We think it's more beneficial to our position to distort the other side's philosophy in such a way that makes them look bad and in many cases evil. So the inaccurate descriptions of individualism that I usually come across is that they are based in that the philosophy of individualism is based in some kind of selfish desire or greed, or lack of desire to coexist with your fellow man in a peaceful way, in a way that is helpful to others. All of those types of things, which really has nothing to do with individualism at all. Individualism is a philosophy, more accurately described, as someone who believes that the primary holder of attributes among the human species is the individual. It recognizes the concept that groups cannot have characteristics that are immutable, that are uniform across the entire group. Therefore, discussing people's characteristics in terms of group is meaningless. That's essentially the rebuttal that an individualist would have against basically all other philosophies that would organize humans. In other words, I think we all know this intellectually. We know that it would be a meaningless thing to talk about really any characteristic that all white people have, or all black people have, or all women have. You can see where I'm going with this. There are no human characteristics at all in terms of the content of the mind, the content of the moral structure, the character of a person. When you break down even into a group of three, you can no longer make blanket uniform statements about all humans in any size group. Break it down to a group of two, you still can't make universal distinctions and make universal statements about how all people in that group are. So an individualist sees this truth in the world and decides that that's pretty significant. And as an individualist, I see that, and I see how important it is to take that concept and let that be a guiding force and a guiding principle in how I look at everything else. Everything else that where people discuss how humans interact, and of course that does cross over into the political, but it also crosses into the philosophical, into the everyday interactions that you have with other people. Is that you start to see them as individuals, and it starts to become, the more individualist you become in your philosophy and the more you think about it actively, about how meaningless group distinctions are in terms of anything that is important, anything that would cause you to say, choose to be friends with a person or not, or to allow them to be a part of your close circle of friends, or even acquaintances. You would start to make choices, as we all have to, of who we involve in our life and who we spend time with. Those decisions start to melt away from the typical group think.